This is the Good Government Show.
To initiate a medical debt relief program, we put $9 million aside, and it helps residents pay off their medical debts. We picked medical debt because medical debt is the principal reason that people declare bankruptcy. 213,000 people have had almost $400 million, $382 million of medical debt wiped out. And the idea that we have people who don't have access to good health care in the richest country of the world, I think, is a shame on all of us. I'm a history teacher, and I think the highest honor your fellow citizens can bestow upon you is elective office. And I try to be grateful for that opportunity every day. You can do a lot of good as an elected official. I always say the job of an elected official is begging, wheedling, cajoling, apologizing for things you didn't do, and trying to work with people you can't stand.
On today's episode, I talk with one of my government heroes. I've been lucky enough to talk many times with the president of the Cook County Commission, Toni Preckwinkle. She is truly a Chicago legend, and she shows no signs of slowing down. Welcome to the Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin. First, help us share the message of good government by liking us and sharing us where we are. We're on Facebook, we're on X, YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Share us with your friends and review us where you're listening. And join our Good Government Show community. Check out our website for the link. I've talked with President Preckwinkle a few times on this show, and I always enjoy catching up with her. She was the first black woman elected to her position. She has served 15 years in that role, and she's made a huge difference in county government in Chicago. She's championed a balanced budget, medical debt relief, health care overall, and she works to get guns off the street. She also has an income program for citizens. This past summer, she unveiled a program called the Cook County Wraparound Services for Survivors of Gun Violence. It started with a $5 million grant to help survivors of gun violence. Overall, crime is down in Chicago, and getting the guns off the street has been a long-time priority for the president. Just recently, at the age of 78, she announced she's running again for her office. She says retirement's not an option. She calls being elected to office the highest honor you can bestow on someone in a democracy. She also said if she wasn't doing her current job, she'd find another way to serve the public. Yeah, see why I like her? One of the issues that President Preckwinkle worked on is medical debt relief. She said that medical debts are the number one reason people get into bankruptcy. She outlined a program that helps people get out of medical debt. It's a good program that can help a lot of people. And that, friends and neighbors, that's good government. So coming up, my conversation with a legend and our friend, Cook County Commission President Toni Preckwinkle. Engagement. We hear that all the time on the Good Government Show. Getting people involved in ideas, planning, and projects. It makes government more effective, and that's good government. At the Good Government Show, we use our own engagement tool called Our. That's O-U-R. Our Co has created a way to engage people and create a community. Our Co can create an app just for your city, your school, your community. It's an easy way to engage people and get immediate feedback. You get reliable data on what you can translate into action your community agrees on. Here on the Good Government Show, we have our own ARCO-created community. Go to our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, and join it. Then you can join the conversation. Weigh in on what makes good government and give us your ideas that can help good government serve all of us. I mean, that's what government's all about. Good government, anyway. Visit arco.com. That's our.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. It was called the War to End All Wars, but it didn't. 3 royal cousins, all kings, one from England, one from Germany, and one from Russia, blundered their way into a war, a completely avoidable war that left millions dead in the trenches across Europe. Good Government Show executive producer Jim Ludlow details the blunders, mistakes, and bluster that started World War I that didn't end all wars. The book, The Royal Cousins, details the events and creates an alternative history. Imagine if World War I never happened. It didn't have to. Just read it yourself. Download the book today on Amazon. It's just 99 cents and a timely look at history. Welcome to the Good Government Show, the voice of public service. I am very happy to have back with me a second time Toni Preckwinkle, the president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. Welcome back to the Good Government Show.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for your good work.
Thank you. We like to think we are telling the story of good government in America, and you are one of the people that have been working on this, trying to deliver good government in Chicago, in Cook County, for quite some time. I said it before, I'll say it again. You're a legend, and I know this is true because there are people behind hanging on your every word. So you must be doing something right in Chicago. And what we wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about a program that I know that you've made a real impact on in Cook County in Chicago. It's a medical debt relief bill. What does that mean? What is a medical debt relief bill?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me begin with the origins of this.
Sure.
You know, I want to thank the Biden-Harris administration for the American Rescue Plan Act that gave resources to our cities, our counties, and our states to help recover from the pandemic and the economic impacts of the pandemic. And one of the things we chose to do with some of the resources that we received in Cook County was to initiate a medical debt relief program. We put $9 million aside, and it helps residents pay off their medical debts.
So $9 million.
$9 million is what we put aside. Okay?
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Okay.
And we picked medical debt because medical debt is the principal reason that people declare bankruptcy. And it disproportionately impacts communities of color, that is medical debt. And it leads to, first of all, people don't secure or don't seek additional care if they have medical debt. It's an impediment to their pursuing health care. It leads to stress and anxiety.
Certainly, any paying bills always does.
Yes, right. You know, something that's just looming out there.
Is it a kind of thing where it's you go to the doctor and you get one bill and then that leads to a second bill? So does it become cumulative quickly?
What often happens is after attempting to secure payment, the provider attempting to secure payment, they turn it over to a collection agency.
Right.
And the collection agency, of course, hounds the individuals forever.
Yeah.
And what we've done is...
And it costs more.
Yeah, right. And what we've done is intervene in that process because the healthcare providers customarily sell their medical debt to the collection agencies for pennies on the dollar. And so the way in which this works, our partner, Undue Medical Debt, buys the medical debt from the providers, from the hospitals, or from the medical practices, and then wipes it out. So they buy it at a rate comparable to the collection agencies, and instead of trying to collect it, they wipe it out.
They just wipe it out.
They wipe it out. They eliminate it. And they send people a letter saying, you know, your debt to the following institution has been paid off. You know, basically go forth and prosper.
So where does the $9 million go, the money that you spend?
Well, we have partnerships with Advent Health, Vituity, Sinai Chicago, which is a safety net hospital, University of Chicago Medicine, which is an academic hospital, Loyola
So these
Medicine.
are all places where folks go to get treatment?
That's right.
Okay.
So these are all places where people would have gotten care, could not pay their bills for whatever reason. The bills normally, again, would go to collection agencies. We buy the bills instead. That is Undue Medical Debt. Our partner buys the bills and then wipes out the debt.
So instead of paying it off, instead of sending it off at cents on the dollar to a collection agent, they send it to you, to Cook County, and you pay, and you step in and pay them.
Undue Medical Debt engages in partnerships with these organizations, and then they just sell their debt to Undue Medical Debt instead of the collection agency.
So how the $9 million, is this money well spent?
It has wiped out so far almost $400 million in medical debt for our residents.
Wait a minute. $9 million paid off $400 million.
Yeah, and the whole $9 million hasn't been spent yet.
Okay.
But so far,
so if you're listening in Chicago and you still have a debt, call your office. Is that what I'm hearing?
we work through Undue Medical Debt, but almost $400 million. So it's $382 million to be exact.
Okay.
$400 million has been wiped out already. Not all the money's been spent, and 213,000 of our residents have been beneficiaries of the program. 213,000 people have had almost $400 million, $382 million of medical debt wiped out.
Is there a loser in all this?
I don't think so. I mean, the health and hospital systems that are our partners would have sold it to collection agencies. So that instead they sell it to Undue Medical Debt. And Undue Medical Debt, as I said, pays the debts on behalf of our residents. No, I mean, I think everybody wins. And we're very grateful, again, to our partners, Advent Health, Vituity, Sinai, which is a safety net hospital, University of Chicago Medicine, and Loyola Medicine, which are academic hospitals.
And how is this advantageous for them?
Well, I think it's good publicity for them.
Okay, all right, that counts too.
The idea that they are prepared when they're faced with uncollectible debt to partner with government and are not-for-profit undue medical debt to wipe out the debt for their patients, I think is a really good thing and reflects well on them. And I'm hopeful that we can, over time, engage more healthcare providers to be partners to do this work.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm confident you'll come through. Tell me a good story.
You know, I can give you a couple of examples of people who, have talked about what happened when they.
I knew I couldn't really put you on the spot. But I'm sure you've heard some pretty incredible stories from people who've said, my God, this program changed everything.
Well, what happens is people say, look, I was really worried, or it was kind of weighing on me, and I didn't want to go to the doctor or go to the hospital because I already had medical debt I couldn't pay.
Right.
And now that I've gotten this help, this burden's been lifted, and what they talk about is relief and gratitude.
And have you had people who have said, I didn't get the medical care I needed because I'd already incurred debt and I couldn't get the next level that was recommended to me? Mostly
what we hear from people is their gratitude for wiping out the debt they had, just honestly, okay?
And that's got to be a huge relief to someone who has... do you know what the typical amount of debt we're talking about is per person?
No, I can't tell you that.
Okay.
All I know is the sort of grand total for our 213,000 county residents. And again, it's almost $400 million.
Is this something people talk to you about when they see you out in the city?
No, what I hear about more is what we're going to talk about next, which is the guaranteed income program.
All right.
But let me just come back to this.
Sure.
I believe that healthcare is a right, and we're the richest country in the world. And the idea that we have people who don't have access to good healthcare in the richest country of the world, I think, is a shame on all of us. But we're not at the place where we're prepared to talk about universal health care. So those of us who believe in that have to do things kind of at the margins. And this is one of the things we can do at the margins. Try to relieve the burden of medical debt on our residents.
And generally speaking, what's the reaction from the residents of Cook County?
Well, when I talk about this program, people say amen.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's a nice endorsement.
Yeah. No, I think people are surprised that government is doing this and grateful. Because it's such an obvious way to try to help people.
Well, it does sound like good government, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound like good government.
How did you come up with this?
Is
this something that people have been saying, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem all throughout?
Well, here's the thing. When we got our American Rescue Plan Act resources, and the city of Chicago got $2 billion, the county of Cook, in which Chicago is located, of course, Chicago and its suburbs, got $1 billion, and the state of Illinois got $16 billion. So God bless my chief of staff, Lynetta Haynes Turner. She said, look, let's have a process for trying to figure out how we're going to spend this money instead of just going off and spending it on a bunch of one-offs. Okay.
Right.
So we spent a year. We talked to our staff. We talked to our commissioners. We had town hall meetings. We had a survey that we distributed to our residents. We talked to the people that we work with as our vendors or partners in various parts of county government. And we came up after a year with a plan. So basically, we spent the first year, we put the money in the bank, we spent the first year trying to figure out systematically what it made sense to spend the money on. And one of the things that came up was the ways in which our residents were challenged financially, not just by the pandemic, but the ways in which the pandemic had complicated their financial situation. And so medical debt was an obvious way to try to help people, eliminating medical debt. Another was a guaranteed income program. And
well, before we get to that, I want to ask you one question.
I didn't answer your question about where did it come from. So two of our juniors.
I interrupted you. You interrupted me.
Yeah,
we're
all
good.
Even. Okay. So Nish Didakavi and Amara Hennigan were two of our junior staff people, and they had heard about the medical debt program, which philanthropy had engaged in before.
Okay.
I think we were the first government entity to try to do it.
Once again, you're a pioneer and a legend.
I'm not sure about that, but so I got to give credit to two junior staff people, Nish Didakavi and Mara Hennigan, who said this is something philanthropy is doing this. We should do it as government. So that's where it came from.
Talk to the listeners out there, hopefully, who are other county commissioners and other mayors and other people in government. Was this hard to do? Give them a roadmap. Share a best practice.
Sure. Get in touch with undue medical debt.
Okay, undue medical debt?
Yeah, we're not in the business of this kind of philanthropy.
Yeah.
And so we found a partner that was. And undue medical debt is that partner, and they can enter into an intergovernmental agreement with undue medical debt and do the same kind of thing.
Was it hard?
No.
Why isn't everyone doing it?
I can't answer that question. And I'm not sure, frankly, it would have occurred to me if my two staff people hadn't come and said, this is what we got to do.
Luckily, you have good people working for you. So
well, you know,
it's all smoke and mirrors, folks.
It's an argument
Don't look at the people standing behind me. If they don't know you, you're tall. So
it's an argument for, you know, listening to your own staff.
Okay.
And for especially the younger staff people who sometimes don't get attended to, let's put it that way, in the way they should. So anyway, these two young people came up with the idea and we pursued it.
Well, everyone knows everyone who goes into county government is in it for the money and the fame. So now you just helped them with both. I'm sure they got nice raises too, right? No? All right, we'll move on.
If you're looking for fame and money, government isn't the place to go. But anyway.
All right, sorry to hear that. Well, you know, people know who you are. So the other thing that
but I've been in public life for like 30 years. So
30 years? That's incredible. When you're only 29, how do you do it?
That's right.
So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is another program that you've been able to get some speed on, is a guaranteed income program. And I know this is something that people are doing around the nation where they're giving people an income. And I think one of the things I want to talk about is this: we're not giving them like an outrageously huge salary. What is the purpose of a guaranteed income? The dollars that we give them, what's the point of it?
Well, I think you have to look at it as sort of a supplement that enables people to kind of be on an even financial keel and not be overwhelmed by the kind of emergencies that we all face sometimes. You know, the brakes go out on the car, or the kid needs, dental care, or, there's a hole in the roof or something. I mean, you know, the kinds of things that just happen to you.
Yeah.
But if you don't
I just found out my daughter got her car hit.
Yeah, right. Okay. And there's a deductible on your insurance.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yes, there is. We'll
All
be talking later.
Yes. So sometimes those things just put people in a downward financial spiral. You know, if you can't afford to get your brakes fixed, maybe you can't drive your car, you can't get to work. I mean, just, a nightmare,
you've lost your job.
Yeah. And, if you don't get the roof fixed, you do more damage. It gets worse. It doesn't get better, right, if you don't fix it. And I think, half of the people in this country can't afford a $400 emergency. We just people don't have a lot of savings to meet the challenges of the day. So our program, and let me just say, hundreds of thousands of people applied for our program. We ended up with 3,250 in the program. 3,250 people in the program, and they got $500 a month for 2 years. And we started the program in December of 2022.
Okay.
December of 2022, and
so is there a second generation now that's...
Well, it wrapped up in January this year. There was a little bit of a rollout of the program,
right.
But the first checks went out in December. We're working with the University of Chicago Inclusive Economy Lab. And by the way, I think it's really important to have, I'm tempted to say approver, but to have an academic institution as a partner that looks at the program and tries to figure out what impact it made. And for the University of Chicago Inclusive Economy Lab, they did this in the way you do a medical study. They had the participants in the program, and then they had people with similar characteristics, who were in a control group. Okay, so then they're going to compare the results of the people who are in the control group and the people who participated in the program. $500 a month, 3,250 individuals for 2 years.
Did you hear any stories about how this affected the folks who received the money?
Yeah, I mean, there's one young woman that I talked to who had a baby, and she was in school pursuing, I think, a nursing degree, and this enabled her to continue her education without trying to work part-time so she could do well in school.
Did you graduate? Do you know? Did you follow up?
In 2 years. I can't tell you, but she was in the midst of that nursing program.
Right.
And this was kind of the little bit of extra resources that enabled her to feel more comfortable being in school and knowing that she could do well. So
the payback, the dividend on $500, a month over 2 years, compare that to a nurse working, helping everyone else.
Right.
There's no question that the money balances out, more than balances out.
Right. And I talked to a gentleman who was trying to care for his elderly mother, and ended up not being able to work himself, and just having a little bit extra money so that he could take care of her mother during the time of her illness, even though he was not able to work and care for her at the same time, was really helpful to him. So, there are lots of, we have a lot of unpaid caregivers in this country, and
Right.
he was one. Usually they're women, frankly, caring for either parents or sibs or whatever. But in this case, it was a young man who was caring for his mother, and enabled him in this difficult period in her life to be with her on a full-time basis, for which he was, very, very grateful. So there are lots of ways in which folks found this extra support useful. And again, there were no strings attached. You could use it in whatever way you wanted. And, I think there's been a history in this country, unfortunately, of not having the same confidence in people who are struggling as the rest of us, not thinking that they're going to use the money for food and shelter and tutoring for their kids in the same way we would, but that somehow they'd use it in some different way. And what we saw is that, again, people use the money in the same way any of the rest of us would use the money.
And new tires and new brakes.
Yeah, new tires and new brakes, and right?
Yeah.
Or the deductible on the car insurance when your kid gets in an accident.
Yes, we'll have to look into that. There are people who would argue that just giving money away is a bad idea. It removes someone's incentive to work harder or make more money. What's your answer to that?
Most of the people who are in this program are working already. So it's not as if, we're supporting people who are not working. And many of the people who are not working as a result of an illness. I mean, if you
or
look,
school, and the
or
other
school,
example.
Or school, the young mother who's now able to go to school and not worry about, the financial situation. So we have to have more confidence in each other, and I think that what we'll see, and again, it'll be this spring in April when the University of Chicago Inclusive Economy Lab provides the results of their review and analysis, and we figure out how to proceed, because I've committed that we'll continue to do this.
Do you think there are changes afoot in the program?
Well, it depends on what they tell us.
Yeah. No preliminary indications
no,
of how it's going?
No, frankly, I haven't heard from them.
Okay.
We just concluded.
That means you're going to have to come back. We're going to talk about this
I'll be happy
again.
to do that.
Good.
In January, the program concluded, so it's just been a month or so that the program has come to an end. But what we said is we'd continue it on. I heard today at a presentation by counties for basic income that there are places in the country where they're doing things like targeting young people who are aging out of foster care, or targeting people who are coming out of carceration, coming out of our prisons
Right.
or jails. And so
there are programs like that around the nation.
Right. And so, I want to see, for example, what kind of impact those programs had in relation to our program, which was just general. It wasn't targeted to any particular demographic.
So the program is going to change and grow a little bit, you suspect?
Well, the program may change, but I gave some examples of things we might consider as either add-ons or ways where a more focused or targeted program may have a greter impact. But I don't know what the results are going to be, because we haven't seen them yet.
Then we'll talk about that in the future. I know you have been a very strong advocate in Chicago for gun control and trying to get guns off the street. Have you made any progress? How's it going?
Well, we've come at it just a little bit of a different way. So what I'd like to talk about is starting in I've been in this job since 2010. So at this point, it's 15 years. One of the first things we started on was trying to get the actors in the public safety arena together. So our chief judge, our sheriff, our state's attorney, our public defender, our clerk of the court, all meeting regularly to talk about how we can improve our justice system. And one of the things that we started doing as a county, we'd always spent a lot of money on jails and courts.
Right.
Counties spend money on public safety mostly in that way. And we said, we've got to do something different. We've got to stem the flow of people into our criminal justice system. We've got to go upstream a little bit. And so we started investing money in community-based organizations that worked with at-risk youth, that worked with people returning from incarceration, again, our prisons and jails, coming back into the community. Because pretty much everybody who goes to jail comes out.
Right.
Very few people get life sentences. And then what do they do when they get out? and working also with groups that were on the ground in communities trying to stem the violence, community violence intervention. And so the county began to fund those kind of organizations. As again, we're going upstream from detention in our jail and interactions with the police to try to see that people don't get into our criminal justice system, aren't enmeshed in that. And we've been putting tens of millions of dollars and especially resources from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, into that work.
Are you spending the people's money wisely in Cook County?
I believe so. And
okay.
And
good.
Here's the thing. It's much better. It's just like healthcare, right? It's much better to spend money on trying to keep people well than trying to treat them when they're sick, right?
Okay.
So if we invest money in young people, if we invest money in people who are returning from our prisons and jails back into the community, if we invest money in them at that point, it's much easier than trying to deal with them when they're already involved in the criminal justice system and have had made maybe some wrong choices, complicated decisions, whatever. It's much better to do the preventive work. And that's, whether it's true of healthcare or violence, it's the same thing. You should invest in the prevention. And some of that is with individuals and some of that is community building.
And what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is the money you spend up front is going to be less than the money you have to spend downstream.
Yeah, it costs us, the last time I checked, it was like $62 a day to keep somebody in jail.
Right.
If you spend $62 a day on, tutoring or after school activities or whatever, you can keep a lot of kids, on the straight and narrow,
Right.
But if you're trying to all you're focused on is what happens when people are in the jail, you haven't paid attention again to the preventive side of this.
All right, and we're going to come back and we're going to hear your true thoughts on government. Don't laugh.
I haven't given you my true thoughts so far.
You'll see. Once you wrap up this episode of The Good Government Show, give a listen to our friends over at Good News for Lefties. This daily podcast highlights news stories that show there's more good news out there. Other people in government are really trying to do the right thing. That's Good News for Lefties. Listen where you're listening now. After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts. All right, I think you've done this before. This is our questionnaire. We always start with the hardest question first. Define good government. What is good government in Cook County?
What I always say.
You've had 15 years to think of the answer to this.
I try to remember this. I'm a history teacher, and I think the highest honor your fellow citizens can bestow upon you is elective office. And I try to be grateful for that opportunity every day. You can do a lot of good as an elected official.
All right. When people don't like what you and your fellow commissioners are doing, what should they do?
Oh, they should talk to us. I mean, I return phone calls. I return emails. I go out to community meetings along with my commissioners. I have 17 commissioners. We are available to the public, and it's important that you communicate with your elected officials. That doesn't mean that they're always going to agree with what you have to say, but they owe it to you to listen to you. And I try to do that. But I always tell people as well, I'm prepared to listen to you, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to do what you want. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't.
I have to point out that Tara Stamps, a fellow commissioner who's been on the show before, is sitting right behind you nodding with everything you said. And when she said, talk to me, she went, yep. So I guess you're in agreement there. All right, good. The Good Government Show, we are the voice of public service. Why did you decide to get into public service?
Well, first of all, the joke I tell is that when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a cowgirl. And after I decided that probably wasn't going to be something I could do for a living.
There's no cowgirls in Chicago running around on horses?
I decided I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I wanted to be a teacher. So I was a teacher for 10 years. In my view, teaching is public service. I worked for not-for-profit organizations, and eventually I ran for office and won on my third try. Teaching, the work I did for not-for-profits, I think it's all public service. And as I said, I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had to serve the people that I represent.
Who inspires you? You inspire others. Who inspires you?
You know, when I was teaching, this shows you how old I was. When I was teaching in the 1970s, I was teaching American history, and it was at the time in which Richard Nixon was being impeached. And I would go home and watch the news of the day. And the person who really impressed me on the Judiciary Committee was Barbara Jordan. I thought she was smart and thoughtful and just insightful. I was really impressed with her. And I thought one of these days when I grow up, that's what I'd like to be, somebody as smart and thoughtful and committed to public service as she is.
All right. Well, people would say you have done that. You've been 15 years on the commission. You're president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. What should people know about government from the inside? What do you know that they don't know?
First of all, that the people who do it are just like them. You know, I mean, we have this idea that politicians are somehow a separate class of folks, just like everybody else. I mean, you know, we have kids who drive us crazy, and challenges like everybody else. My kid hasn't been in a car accident lately, but anyway.
Okay, good. All right.
They're good people who struggle to do a very difficult job every day. And unfortunately, I think in this country, public service has gotten more difficult rather than less, partly because the country's so polarized, and partly because I think there's less respect and confidence in government than there is when I started this work in the 1990s.
What's the best part of the job?
You know, I was an alderman in the city of Chicago. I was a local elected official in the city for almost 20 years. And what I loved about my job and what I still like is the opportunity to help people. And the difference is when I was an alderman, I knew the people I was helping because I saw them on the street, or they showed up in my office, or they called on the telephone. In this
you're
job,
accessible. Everybody can talk to you.
In this job,
yeah,
you can help a lot more people, but you don't know them personally, so it's a little harder.
So that's the biggest challenge?
Well, no. The biggest challenge is the number of actors who you need to engage with is a lot greater the higher up the food chain you go politically. So I always say the job of an elected official is begging, wheedling, cajoling, apologizing for things you didn't do, and trying to work with people you can't stand. And that pool of people is a lot bigger the higher up the food chain you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, never heard it put quite that way. So thanks for that. You said you started off as a teacher. Did you always see yourself going into public service?
No. But I worked in
the cowboy thing. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, a cowgirl.
Yeah.
No. When I was in high school, I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and I enjoyed that. But before I ever had a real job other than babysitting, I worked in political campaigns. So I've been working in political campaigns since I was 16. So at some point along the line, I decided I could run for office myself and not just help other people.
What's the undiscovered best thing about Chicago?
Oh, God, it's beautiful. The lakefront, the architecture, the variety and vibrancy of our neighborhoods. Since I'm a Cook County person, I have to say, the vibrancy and variety of our communities, not just the neighborhoods in the city of Chicago.
Usually I ask this question, what's the signature dish of Chicago? What's the thing that people should have when they come there? Please don't talk about Chicago pizza. I'm from Brooklyn. I have a problem. Yeah,
you don't like Chicago pizza?
I'm a Brooklyn guy. I have New York pizza. Come on.
New York pizza. You don't like deep dish?
No.
Okay.
Do you? Is that your thing?
Oh, I can't say it's my thing, but I do like deep dish pizza.
Okay.
A lot of calories, though.
What's the best if you go to Chicago? What's the thing you should try? What's the ultimate Chicago dish?
The ultimate Chicago? I can't say that. My favorite neighborhood restaurant is Pizza Capri, and they serve Italian food. But anyway,
all right.
There's also a great restaurant in my neighborhood, Virtue, which is a young African American chef that started a restaurant in my neighborhood. So those are my two favorites.
I think Tara Stamps has been there. She's just nodding her head again.
Virtue. She's been to Virtue. Okay.
So what do you do for fun?
So I'm a history teacher. I like antique shows and estate sales and rummage sales.
Do you do that? Do you slip it out every once in a while?
Yeah, I go to those things, yes.
Okay, cool. And when you run into people and they recognize you?
Yeah, they say, what are you doing here?
Right. Does it take you a while to get out?
Occasionally, I tell them, occasionally I give myself a day off, yeah.
This is the Good Government Show. We'd like to end this note on a good government project. Tell me about something that you're really proud of that you've been able to pull off.
Well, again, that work, a year of talking to people, trying to gather information about what we should be doing. What we heard universally is that the county needed to invest more in behavioral health services, that historically our system focused on physical health and not behavioral health, and that we really needed, especially because of the anxiety and depression and isolation that went along with the pandemic, we needed to focus more on behavioral health. And so we've made tremendous investments in our health and hospital system, in a Department of Behavioral Health, staffing that up, and then grants to community-based organizations that are doing that good work.
Toni Preckwinkle, the president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, Chicago, Illinois. It is a pleasure to always talk with you and hear that you are maintaining the high standard of good government in Cook County. Thanks for that. Thanks for your work. And thanks for coming back on the show. It's good to have you back.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Want to hear more about good government? Check out another show I host, Leading Iowa, Good Government in Iowa Cities. I host the show with Brad Kavanaugh, mayor of Dubuque, Iowa, and the immediate past president of the Iowa League of Cities. Together, we talk to leaders in Iowa cities. We talk about what works and what good government looks like in Iowa. Join us right here where you're listening now. That's Leading Iowa, Good Government in Iowa Cities. I really like her definition of government, especially the last part of her explanation. And you work with people you can't stand. The most important part of that is you work with people you can't stand. That's the only way we can all get good government. It's to work together. I hope she's successful. Talking about our medical debt relief program, look at the numbers. A $9 million spend wiped out nearly $400 million in debt and helped 213,000 people. Talking about guaranteed income, she explained it this way. Half the people in the country can't afford a $400 emergency. Her plan fixes that. That's truly good government in action. I like when she said we need to work at the margins, doing the things you can do to make an impact where you can, with what you can work with. Another great conversation with one of the best in government, Cook County Commission President Toni Preckwinkle. I look forward to talking to her again. That's our show. Thanks for listening. Please like us and share us with your friends and review us right here where you're listening. Do it right now. Check out our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, for extras. There's lots of stuff there. Help us keep telling stories of good government in action everywhere. Join us again for another episode right here. I'm Dave Martin, and this is The Good Government Show. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershik. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.